Tough loss for the Texans, but things don't look so bad. Let's do the Week 8, post-Week 8 outlook in the locker room.
Yeah. It's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do.
All right, we'll hear from DeMeco Ryans. We'll talk about the state of the Texans offense, and we'll talk about where they sit. It is the locker room, #1 source for Texans daily digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can hear me Monday through Friday, 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 610 and the Odyssey app. Wasn't a great one. Wasn't a great week for the Texans. You lose to a winless team, and it's not the vibes that we anticipated on Reaction Monday. But as they always say, when they don't have much to say, it kind of is what it is. This is where the NFL is after 8 weeks. And we always start the post-week outlook with this data. After week 8, there's 14 teams above 500. There's 3 at 500. And there's 15 below 500. And the Texans are one of those teams below 500. As we sit right now, we got to make this very clear. This division is the Jags division until further notice. The way in which they've responded to that loss to the Texans has been beyond impressive. They've won 5 straight ball games. They're using Travis Etienne at a high level. It doesn't even seem like they're fully gelling as an offense. I know they got some favorable whistles yesterday, but they've won 5 straight ball games. And as we sit right now, the Jags are sitting at 6-2, and the Texans are sitting at 3-4. So you're 2 games behind them in the loss column. Until you get one, I don't even think you need to even worry about the Jags. Right now, it's kind of if you're talking about the Texans and you're still throwing out that P word, playoffs. The Texans right now, you're looking at the teams that are above you in the wild card, from Buffalo to Pittsburgh to Cleveland to the Jets. And really Buffalo right now, they're in the same boat. They're 5-3, but you've got to anticipate Buffalo having a pretty strong grasp on one of those wild card spots. Pittsburgh sitting at 4-3. Seems like they're kind of coming down to earth now. I know Pickett was roughed up yesterday. Cleveland's at 4-3. You actually get to play them. They're going to have to face Baltimore. They're going to have to face Cincinnati again, who's kind of finding their way. They're also at 4-3, and the Jets are 4-3. So the good news is you're still very much in the playoff chase early on. The bad news is there's some pretty good teams above you, and you also have teams like the Chargers that are creeping up on the Texans. But you get to face Cleveland, you get to face the Jets, and you also face the Bengals. Let's hear from DeMeco Ryans. He met with the media on Reaction Monday. This is what the head coach of the Texans had to say. We'll react to that. We'll also talk about the big news that the Texans have, including another injury, a significant one, according to DeMeco Ryans, as well as some drama that Texans players kind of found their way in today. That was pretty interesting. Here's DeMeco Ryans, though.
Hey, DeMeco.
Hey.
How you doing?
Great, John. How you doing?
You were asked after the game about this, but you go in more detail about the performance that Bernard and Collins had together, which was probably the best in-tackle game combinations had in this franchise's history.
When it comes to Jonathan and Malik, I think both guys played, really well. Jonathan specifically on the edge, what he was able to do, rushing the passer, utilizing the long arm, like playing with power and being able to get to the quarterback. It was the best game I've seen him have. So encouraged with that. And Malik with the interior rush, he was able to disrupt the quarterback. And both guys, when they continue to rush like we asked them to rush and do it consistently, they can affect the quarterback. And it's a combination of, with Jonathan, he's able to get that pressure on the quarterback because of our interior push up front. So without those guys pushing the pocket up front, and Jonathan won't be able to get his sack. So it's a combination of all those guys working together, and they show when we rushed well together, we rushed as one, we made plays. We disrupted the quarterback, and we were able to get him down a few times. So if we continue with the right mindset, continue to rush like we rushed on yesterday, and we'll continue to affect the quarterback.
Defense was fine yesterday. You're watching DeMeco Ryans. It is the post Week 8 wrap up here in the locker room. Appreciate everyone for coming through. But yeah, I mean, the defense was fine yesterday. There was no problem with the defense. They gave the offense break after break after break, whether it was after the Beck fumble, whether it was inside the 5. They did everything they could and more to help the offense. You hold a team to 15 points. By the way, a team that has one of the worst rushing defenses in the league, you should win the game. So Malik Collins and Jonathan Grenard, a big part of that.
What do you think has been the biggest reason to why you guys are top 6 in points allowed per game at 18.3 per game?
When it comes to the points per game, it's something that we pride ourselves on not allowing teams to get in the end zone. And I think we've done a good job of that over the past couple weeks. And it really comes down to executing. And guys just being on the same page when it comes to communication. Like, everybody is where they're supposed to be. Everybody plays with great eye discipline. And when you do that consistently, especially when it gets tight in the red zone, you're going to keep people out of the end zone. When you get a little loose with your technique, your coverage, your eye discipline, when you get a little loose, that's when you allow teams in the end zone. So, the name of the game is to not give up points, and we've done a fairly decent job of that over the past couple weeks. And when it comes to the final drive, we weren't good enough. I think I put that on me, started with myself. We weren't good enough. We didn't execute as good as we had been executing throughout the game. So we just have to be on that better, starting with me and, going to players who have to execute when our number is called.
Coach, from an offensive perspective, what goes into getting Tank Dell and Nico Collins more involved in the pass game than they've been in recent weeks?
Yeah, we continue to try to utilize Tank and Nico as much as possible. I think they've been two of our biggest playmakers when it comes to the offense, two of our most explosive playmakers. I continue to show Nico downfield making plays. Tank has made plays, had an outstanding run. We were able to get him a play out of the backfield. He's shown he can do multiple things, just getting him the ball, whether it's
Yeah, cut that out, please. The backfield stuff is embarrassing, and it's being completely overthought. And I'm really actually surprised that people are as okay with it as they are. Tank Dell's a good wide receiver. He's not a gimmicky gadget guy. I know that reverse looked cool. The defensive player was actually all over it. He made him miss. And at the end of the day, it was just a 9-yard gain. So I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know why they're overthinking. Put Tank Dell on the outside, put him in the slot, let him make plays. And, oh, by the way, John Mechie ran one route yesterday, and that was after he was 3-1 in Vegas to score a touchdown. So this notion that you have to put Tank Dell in the backfield and you have to do this gimmicky-ass gadget stuff, he's proven that he's not a gimmicky-ass gadget player. So you don't have to find other ways. Let's not take away Tank Dell's ability to be a receiver and put him in the backfield. And some of them, they were just using him as a decoy where he's just running out and stuff like that. I don't need to see that. He's not Deebo Samuel. If you want to run these sweeps, run them with Hutchinson, a bigger guy. Run them with Mike Boone, a guy who deserves more touches. He's had 2 carries, 1 for 11 and 1 for 5 the last 2 weeks. He had a catch for 11 on that one drive. That one drive, he had 2 big, the 9-minute, 17-play drive. He had 2 big plays. He didn't touch the ball again. So get that backfield crap out of here. Enough of that.
It's punt return in the backfield, running routes. Tank is just an explosive playmaker, and we have to find a way to continue to create, ways to get him the ball.
Give an update on Jared Patterson and where he is. How difficult is it to change centers? You guys have done it a couple times already due to injury. How difficult is it? Maybe how does Juice Scruggs maybe eventually factor in that?
Yeah, when it comes to Jared, his injury, lower leg injury, he'll be out for some time. Hopefully we can get him back. But it is, we've shuffled a lot of guys on the offensive line throughout the year, and it is difficult losing your center. Jared has been a staple for us throughout this season. Very pleased with what he was able to do stepping in. Smart player, tough player, played well for us. So we'll be doing some more shuffling around there. Coach Strausser has done a really great job with that group, so we'll see who goes out there and see, what we can put together this coming week.
Along the lines of the explosive topic, CJ after the game was talking about wanting to take more deep shots. What from Carolina kind of prevented doing that and still be able to take care of the football? And you think going forward, you guys won't be able to kind of get back to put the ball down the field more effectively?
When it comes to the deep shots, just structurally the way Carolina's defense is set up, they want to force you, right, to earn every yard down the field. So they're going to play in a deep shell coverage to force the ball in front of them, right? And so that's what it was. We had a couple opportunities for some deep shots. We just didn't connect on them. So they were there. You have a team who is going to force you to throw the ball underneath, and for the one time or two times that we do get the opportunity to throw it downfield, it's that time to connect, and we didn't connect on that. That's football. That happens.
Hey, Coach, after looking back at your film, what did you see, what type of production did you see, like, Boone provided to the run game? And moving forward, would you guys be a little bit more, I guess, willing to give him more opportunities moving forward?
Well, when it comes to the running game, I think all three backs were able to get some carries, and Tank got in there and got carries as well. So our run game has just been a complement of different guys getting opportunities. Boone had a couple runs in there. He had a really big third down conversion for us on the check down, converting that to a first down. So he's done some nice things. All three guys have done nice things when it comes to the running back position.
When teams are taking away the deep ball,
I mean, I would like to see a little bit more Boone, to be honest with you. I think it would be nice.
how quick does, I guess the quarterback have to be in regards to seeing that quickly and then just trying to work underneath? Like, how quickly does that have to happen? Because, sometimes they close up quickly.
For sure, it can close up quickly. They did a great job of handling the quick game by they batted a few passes down. Just so when you are quick, we just have to scheme it up a little bit different. We see how teams are attacking us when it comes to our offense and how they want to attack CJ. So you see that it changes each week. It shows the respect that they have, and again, you start to see more film on young quarterbacks, and you see how you need to defend him. So they did a really good job. Carolina's defense did a really good job of defending him versus the quick game where he's been pretty good the past couple weeks.
How do y'all balance sort of establishing your identity as an offense versus also not developing too many tendencies and tails for the opposing for the opposition?
Right, that's the key when you are trying to establish that identity, right, and trying to put our guys in position to make plays. You can't be too simplistic to where teams can just tee off on what you're doing. So there's a fine balance there of keeping it, complex for the defense, but offensively for us, keeping it as simple as possible so our guys can play fast and execute.
How do you think Denzel Love's coming off the head injury?
Say it again.
How do you think Denzel Love's coming off the head injury and just without playing in the club?
Denzel, he did really nice for us. He made a couple big-time stops in there when it came to third down. He had some really big hits. He did a really good job.
We'll take a few more. Do you expect it's possible that Juice could practice this week?
We'll see. Not there yet. Yeah.
In terms of, you had a couple of linebacker blitzes. Is that more game plan specific going against a rookie quarterback, or is that something that y'all kind of feel like they tap into something that you might do specifically?
Game plan specific things. It changes for me weekly based on what we need to do to affect our opponent. So felt like we could get pressure up the middle that way this past week, and that's why you saw those blitzes.
With the deadline approaching, is there a lot more time spent in the building? How do you guys go about that as a staff, making those decisions with it approaching so quickly?
When it comes to the trade deadline, Nick and his scouting staff has done a really good job of looking at guys all throughout the year. So they handle that. We handle the coaching piece of it. If there are opportunities to make our team better, we always look at all opportunities.
So the first 4 games, you guys averaged 24 points and averaged like 368. That was like top 10 in the league. Past 3 weeks, I think you guys are averaging a little bit under 300 and 17 points. What do you think has been the biggest changed for you offensively that's prevented you guys from continuing that success that you had earlier?
When it comes to our offense and what has changed, I think just playing different defenses and how they've attacked us over the past 3 weeks. I think that's been a change. First few weeks, people were really not having enough film and seeing what we do schematically. I think that allowed us to, create some big explosive plays. But now, as you start to gain tendencies throughout the season, right? Teams kind of hone in on your playmakers, hone in on what you do well, and they force you, as you say, force you to play left-handed when it comes to that. So, we have to continue to do a good job of keep pressing. We got a lot of playmakers on our offense, right? And they made big plays for us throughout the year. Expect those guys to still find a way to make plays.
Coach, you've been talking for weeks about getting the line to rush together, and the results are going to come. How encouraging was it for you to get that results yesterday with the sacks, the quarterback hits, TFLs, the pressures, when you look back on it?
And when it comes to the pressures we were able to get yesterday, I'm happy for our guys that they see success from when you do it the proper way, right? And hopefully that shows them that, hey, we're going to keep operating that way, and when we rush together, right, we can be effective and help change the game.
Thanks.
All right, thank you.
All right, you go. It's DeMeco Ryans here on the post 8 week wrap up. It is the locker room. Please subscribe, like, right along. Get your comment in if you have a question. Teeman asks, appreciate you, Teeman. Is it a coincidence CJ hasn't been putting up huge numbers since the Pittsburgh game? Something's changed. Let's just go game for game because there's been 3 games since the Atlanta game. Really, they just weren't taking advantage of their opportunities in the red zone. I know they had the field goals early on. Also think they were being a little too stubborn with Dameon Pierce. This was before they kind of shifted to the committee. So I think it was a combination of the red zone offense and then just too much Dameon Pierce there. Also lost Tank Dell at the end of the second half, or first half. That didn't help, obviously. So kind of had to adjust there. As far as the New Orleans game, and even in that Atlanta game, CJ did have the drive at the end to where had the defense been able to hold up, although they were kind of depleted with the secondary, would have been one of his more memorable performances. As far as the Saints game, it was just kind of a mad game. I don't think it was that bad. They started off good. Seemed like they kind of slowed down a little bit at the end. But that was kind of where they incorporated the committee. And this last game, I just think it was overthought. Obviously didn't have Robert Woods. I think it was overthought. And I thought Bobby Slowick probably had a little bit too much time to think. And I also think there is a certain element of, look, I know that they've played well, the offense. They've played about as well as you could possibly expect, but I do think we've got to, and I talked about this during the bye. I think we've also got to kind of realize that, this is an elite talent on the offense. I mean, I think you have some pieces. I think you have some complementary pieces, but if we're just going position group by position group, the offensive line should be elite, right? It's not. It's not. They can't run block. I mean, when you have as much money on the offensive line as they do, and their big money guys are out there, I don't care if Juice Scruggs is out or Jared Patterson gets hurt. You should be able to be effective. And we saw them win a couple of games without Laramie Tunsil, and they won a couple of games without Titus Howard. The offensive line with the money they have invested, it's kind of a problem. Now, maybe Titus Howard needs to go back to tackle and they can figure that out, but the offensive line is not elite. The wide receivers, Nico Collins has been as good as you could possibly expect him to be. Tank Dell has been great when they actually trust him to be a wide receiver instead of a gadget guy that gets hyped up 9-yard runs. But you don't have elite wide receivers either. I don't think you have a top 20, 25 receiver on this team, unless y'all want to say that Nico is. And if you're prepared to say that, then okay. The running backs, you might have one of the worst backfields in the NFL. Like, if we're being honest, like who has a worse backfield in the entire NFL than the Houston Texans? I mean, I'm sitting here begging for Mike Boone to get carries. Think about that. I mean, Mike Boone's been the third back everywhere he's been. I think Dameon Pierce is a fine back. He's definitely not a bell cow. Devin Singletary, the Bills are ready to get rid of him. They drafted James Cook. They were ready to replace Singletary last year. So these guys are fine, but Frank says it's a hot take. Name a worse backfield in the NFL. Like, really, what's hot about it? Give me a backfield worse than the Texans in the NFL. There's probably a few. There's not a lot. I mean, let's just stay in the division. Would you rather have what Jacksonville has with Etienne, Bigsby, and the other dude? Yes. They invested in the Etienne, and they still drafted Bigsby even when they had Etienne. Would you rather have the Colts backfield with Jonathan Taylor and what they got? Probably. I mean, definitely. And then the Titans, Derrick Henry, and whatever the hell else they have. Yeah, I don't know. Jerome says the Bucks. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. They got White, who's a pretty shifty guy. I think we'll get a look at him this week. I think it's probably pretty similar. But Cardinals, maybe. I'm not even like really checking out the Cardinals. But Rashad White's good. They got Chase Edmonds too, who they just got back with Tampa Bay. I mean, we can nickel and dime it, but the Texans have one of the worst backfields in the league, at least to me. Yeah, Arizona's maybe, sure. We can go there. Michael's asking, is Will Anderson a bust? No. I mean, what are we doing here? Let's be serious. Cebu says Raiders. No, I would take Josh Jacobs over anything the Texans have. Absolutely not. I would much rather have Najee Harris and Warren too. That's better than the Texans backfield. So no, I like White better than any back that the Texans have too. And Chase Edmonds and Devin Singletary. I guess Devin's a little bit better, but Edmonds just came back. So no, I definitely wouldn't take the Raiders. The O-line being overpaid, I think that's a possibility. They invested quite heavily. And I don't really know. I don't really know what to really make of that. How much longer do we have to suffer as fans? Do you feel like you're suffering? I don't feel that way. I mean, what you're suffering right now? One game out of a playoff chase, a young quarterback that you feel good about, a coach that you feel pretty good about, some young pieces, some cap space coming up, full draft equity. If this is suffering, then I wish I would have been suffering the last few years. I mean, I damn sure don't like losing to winless teams, and I damn sure don't like laying out the offensive roster the way I just laid it out. But I don't feel like I'm suffering. Now, maybe the bar is a little bit low, so there is that. But I don't feel like I'm suffering at all. I feel like I'm okay. And the Texans have an opportunity this week. They actually open as a 2.5-point favorite against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which is interesting. Baker Mayfield coming to town, Tampa Bay, in a kind of a situation where they're in one of the worst divisions in football. Texans looking to go 500 against one of the worst divisions in football. And if you can go through this stretch and finish 2-2 against that division and be 4-4 through 8 games and right there in the playoff mix, depending on what happens in front of you, you look at the remaining games. You got Cincinnati, then Arizona. So if you can get to 500 after the Tampa Bay game, You can split the Cincinnati, Arizona games, and you can try to keep going 500. Then you got Jacksonville. Who knows where Jacksonville will be at that point? And then it gets really, really, really easy. If you can split these next 4 games, Tampa Bay, Cincinnati, Arizona, Jacksonville, and then if you want to get greedy against Jacksonville and try to get back in the division, so be it. After that, you got Denver, the Jets, the Titans twice, Cleveland, and Indianapolis. So the next 4 games, going back and forth, that's going to be something to keep an eye on. If you can stay within that 500-ish range. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, as far as the suffering comment, I disagree. I don't feel like I'm suffering. I've suffered quite a lot and had to cover this for a while. Nick asks, is Damian Pierce as good as Marion Barber? No, I mean, not really. I do think they're similar, and I do think they in ideal roles, but at this point, no. The Texans will be busy planning how to embarrass the entire city of Houston. So far, so good. All right. Justin, if that O-line doesn't get fixed, then there's no point in going to the playoffs for what? So we can get humiliated. I don't know what the hell that means. So there's no point to going to the playoffs if you can go to the playoffs because you might lose in the first round. Okay. That's absolutely crazy to me. I don't agree with that. I think some of you are getting a little bit crazy. Jerome says he doesn't feel good about none of these games left. Just can't trust us right now. Atlanta and Panthers got to be wins. Yeah, I agree with you. Like, I don't think, even Arizona, like, I don't think you should be able to like count wins. And it actually kind of made me cringe last week when John McClain was counting, all these wins and saying, oh, you got Carolina, then you got Tampa Bay, you beat them, you're 5-3. I'm like, man, golly, like the Texans can lose any game. I mean, I know you're talking about Atlanta and Panthers got to be wins. The Saints could have easily been a loss too, So I get it. It's going to be a lot of battles, but we'll see what happens. Creighton says we got to get a new offensive coordinator. I disagree. I think he had a bad go of it, but I don't think they need a new offensive coordinator. What can be done about the run game? That's something that's going to be real interesting to see. They've stubbornly tried to get it done. I think it should become even more of a committee where Mike Boone is involved. I don't think Tank Dell coming out of the backfield is the answer, but they seem to want to run the ball. Maybe they should trade for a running back tomorrow and get like a true running back that they can feel comfortable with, that can make some of these plays. But as far as what they do about the run game, I think block better is really like as simple as it can get. I heard Seth Payne talking about it. He watches these types of things. Block better, starting on the interior, which brings me to this question. Is it time to move Titus Howard away from guard? I think so. I don't, you guys know me. I don't pretend to be a film study guy. I don't pretend to, know what Titus Howard is supposed to do, but I know he's not supposed to pull and just sit there and watch, which is what he does quite often. Now, I don't know if he's lost and doesn't know where he's supposed to go. I don't know if he just doesn't feel like being physical when he pulls, but there were some low light moments for Titus Howard at guard. And look, you gave him all that money to be a tackle. Just move him to tackle, put Jones or whoever the hell you want to put at guard. He can't be much worse than what Titus Howard is playing right now at guard. Because that's just that's not the position that you paid him to be at. So you got to put him there. Also saw that Titus Howard little Twitter battle today. Kind of thought he got taken to the woodshed. I would be kind of embarrassed if I were Titus Howard on that. Y'all can just go check out his timeline. Basically, Titus Howard said the defense was going to shut Baker Mayfield down, and someone said, well, just like Desmond Ridder, and then it became like a back and forth where I don't think Titus Howard looked too good. I think he looked kind of weird, especially coming off the game that he came off of. But he's always kind of been like that. I remember the Lonnie Johnson, the Watson thing. Titus has always been a little bit weird on there, but I think he thought he looked a lot better than he did. I didn't think he did too well for himself. I actually think the other guy kind of got the best of him in the discussion. And the other thing is this, and look, I'm not sitting here acting like it's like the end all be all, but if I'm Titus Howard and I'm playing the way that Titus Howard is playing, I'm not trying to write checks for opposing offenses that the defense will have to cash. Like, the defense played good enough for you to win yesterday. Like, I wouldn't sit there and say we're going to shut Baker Mayfield out, because I don't know. I followed Baker Mayfield since he was in high school. I followed him all the way from Tech to Oklahoma to Cleveland and all that. And most of you have too. But the one thing about Baker Mayfield is I just don't think he's the type of guy you want to give bulletin board material to. And when you're an offensive lineman and you're a guard who's playing the way that Titus Howard's playing, and they're running the ball, they're running the way they're running the ball, I just don't think that I would want to I just don't think I would want to give Baker Mayfield an ounce of motivation, especially while I'm getting dunked on by a fan who, by the way, that dude can talk some crap, man. I don't even know what his name was, but I just saw it, man. He was going in on Titus. Titus was saying he was trolling. Man, you weren't trolling anyone except yourself on that. That was rough. But put him back at tackle, and let's start getting reaping some of the benefits of that money. Jared Patterson, you heard DeMeco talk about it. He's going to miss a lot of time with a lower body injury. I guess on Instagram, he questioned the broken ankle thing. He said he didn't know. I don't know if that means that he hurt his leg. I don't know if that means that maybe Aaron Wilson's talking to trainers or something like that. But I thought it was interesting that he didn't even know that he broke his ankle, and it was kind of questioned on Instagram. So I don't know what to make of that. A lot of you asking about if the Texans should make a move at the deadline. I don't know. I like Chase Young a lot. I saw his dad called into a sports radio station today, which was kind of interesting. I don't know if I were 24 years old, I want my dad calling in to talk to Grant Paulson, who I think is really, really good at covering the Commanders. Been doing it for a while. But to each his own. But if the price is a third and more, I mean, at this point, why not just make the defense as good as possible and see if they can take you home? I don't see anything on offense unless maybe you could get Saquon Barkley for a good price. I don't see anything that would really do too many favors for the Texans. But I do find it interesting, like with the Giants trading Leonard Williams today, if let's say they want to trade Saquon, and let's say they would take a third and more for Saquon. Now, some of you will say, well, running back, blah, blah, blah. Bobby Slowick and DeMeco Ryans were at San Francisco last year. I think San Francisco was 3-3 before they traded for Christian McCaffrey. Now, they faced the Chiefs his first game. He didn't have a lot of time to get acclimated, didn't start, and they lost that game. So they started out 3-4. However, with Christian McCaffrey starting last year, they won 10 straight games. I think 11 or 12 if you count playoffs. But in the regular season, they won 10 straight games after starting out 3-3 before they traded for him and 3-4 after the Kansas City game. And Christian McCaffrey was a big part of what they did. If Saquon Barkley, you could get him for a bargain. I know he just signed like that weak-ass contract. You have a rookie quarterback. Maybe you can get him for like some sort of a bargain. A complete back that can do everything, and then you can fill in accordingly with your committee pieces. Is that something that they would consider? Probably not. And I don't know that the Giants are going to trade Saquon at this point, but the only reason I bring it up is because I think they need a elite running back. They obviously are going to have money with CJ, and you have guys from a situation, a coaching staff where they saw the impact that a running back can make when you trade for him at the deadline, just like McCaffrey did last year with DeMeco and Slowick in San Francisco. So it is something to think about. Diana Rossini of The Athletic says the Texans are going to stand pat, but I don't, if they could get Saquon for a bargain, I would like it. Some people wouldn't, but they've already reaped the benefits of that type of move. And I'm not saying he's Christian McCaffrey, but I do think he can do hell of a lot. And I think he might get kind of geeked up in a new situation. What's going to happen with Will Levis? This is really the most interesting thing. We keep looking up, or at least I keep looking up at the standings, the wild card standings and all that. Texans 1 game out with some of the teams that they're facing. Titans have the same record as the Texans, and Will Levis had the best rookie debut of the season. Now, do I think am I a Will Levis fan? No. But I am interested to see, and we're not going to have to wait too long. We got 3 days. And by the way, this is going to be a win-win. You got the Titans versus the Steelers. So Pittsburgh, you're chasing in the wild card, and Tennessee, you're tied with in the division. So there's going to be a win-win game right off the top to start week 9 for the Texans. But I am intrigued to see how Will Levis handles this. And at the very least, the division got a lot more interesting with Levis doing his thing. So we'll see how it goes. Bottom line is it was a bad loss, but in the big scheme, big picture, you're still in the playoff chase. Got to beat Tampa Bay. You open as a 2.5-point favorite there. And as far as suffering, same old Texans, I'm just not feeling that. Appreciate everyone for coming through. More content coming throughout the week. Be sure to subscribe, ride along. Another exclusive interview this week on Sports Radio 610 in the Loop. John McClain tomorrow at 11. Appreciate everyone for coming through in the locker room. When it comes to this Texans content, we're all in it together. Appreciate you.
Source, we the pulse of the city too. Landlocked, got the game in the headlock. Localized every time, can't stop, won't stop. Yeah, we top 2 and we not 2. Plugged in daily digital on YouTube. We got taste for days, opinions to give, we got takeaways.